With thousands of FPL managers wildcarding in Game Week 8, in today's video I'm going to reveal what I think is the best Game Week 8 wildcard draft, the players that I think are absolutely essential, the ones that are great differentials, and of course the big question, can we actually include Mo Salah? So as always, if you're looking forward to today's video, make sure you drop a like, and of course hit that subscribe button for daily fantasy content. Enough waffling. Let's get to today's video. So first up, I want to talk about the situation with Mo Salah, because going into Game Week 8, it feels wrong not to consider him on a wildcard. But of course, with the position that we're in right now of Erling Haaland, where he is just looking ridiculous, it doesn't look like he's going to have a game where he doesn't score. It's very difficult to justify paying for both Erling Haaland and Mo Salah in our wildcard team. So hopefully in this section we can come down to some sort of conclusion, or at least some sort of understanding on what is the right and wrong move for your Game Week 8 wildcard team. So here we got the fixtures of both Liverpool and Man City up until Game Week 15. Now, the first reason why we got it up until Game Week 15 is because in Game Week 16 we're anticipating all of the players involved in the African Cup of Nations to go out for that competition. So effectively, we've got Mo Salah for those fixtures, starting with Man United in Game Week 8 and finishing with Leeds away in Game Week 15. We're not anticipating him to go away before the Game Week 16 deadline. So when we're considering Mo Salah, it isn't like we're looking at him as a long-term hold for the rest of the season. It is for these fixtures here. And the fixtures that they actually do have are decent. I think Man United in Game Week 8 is a good fixture. With Amorim right now, we have no idea what kind of Man United is going to turn up. Brentford's fine, Villa's fine. Yes, Game Week 11 is difficult against Man City, but would I be surprised if Liverpool were to score in that fixture? No. And then we got a really nice run of Forest, especially if Andrew's still in charge, West Ham, Sunderland and Leeds. So I think there are good fixtures along the way for Liverpool. In particular, from Game Week 12 onwards is really where hopefully we get an understanding of what is going on at Liverpool. And hopefully there are some players that we can target. But of course, we're focusing on Mo Salah right now. Now, for me, when we're actually looking at the underlying data, and we got it over here, I've got a comparison between Salah and Semenyo, who of course is the standout midfielder right now from a value perspective. And then we got Erling Haaland, just to put things in perspective, of course, a player that is of the same price point. So XG non-penalty for Mo Salah is 1.18. That's not per 90. That is over the course of the season. And remember, we've had 7 game weeks and he has played every single one. Semenyo, on the other hand, 2.8. Decent. And then we've got Erling Haaland at the most ridiculous 7.71. So look, 14.5 million for Mo Salah, only having an XG of 1.18 non-penalty is just not good enough. And even when I watch him from an eye test perspective, I don't think this Liverpool team is geared to getting the best out of Mo Salah from what we saw last season. Last season, the midfield three done all the running. They allowed Mo Salah to play high on the counter-attack and effectively be the outball in every opportunity. We're not seeing that right now. So the eye test isn't ticking the box and the underlying numbers are not ticking the box right now for him. Next up, if we're paying 14.5 million, I need to have him be a captaincy option each and every week. Haaland right now is the default captain, and I get it, it's a little bit boring, but it's the way the game is right now. Liverpool in Game Week 11 and Newcastle in Game Week 12 are two fixtures that I do think you could take on the Erling Haaland captaincy. Well, Salah then in Game Week 11 is against City. I wouldn't be looking to captain Salah then, but I do agree in Game Week 12, you can captain him against Nottingham Forest, but is that enough of a reason? Because I look at the other fixtures and I'd argue Haaland is as good, if not better, than Mo Salah in each and every week outside of that. So again, there's not really enough great fixtures to justify captaining Mo Salah unless we do see a turn of things. Now, what I'm going to do right now is put up a Salah and Haaland draft as well for you guys, just to give you an idea of the sacrifices that do need to be made. So we've of course got Haaland and we've got Mo Salah, but because of the prices that we're paying there, I do think an Arsenal defender is really important. So we got a premium defender in Gabriel and we got Semenyo. But then we are making serious sacrifices. As you can see, no Arsenal midfielder at all because I'm struggling to squeeze one in. Yes, maybe we could go for Eze, but is that the one we really want? No, it is going to be Bukayo Saka. And having Haaland, Salah, Saka and someone like a João Pedro, for me, just isn't viable long term. I think that is a structure that is just going to be completely squeezed each and every week, and it's going to cause a lot of problems. You're missing out on so many great picks over this run. I just don't think it makes sense for a draft. But of course, if you've made a team that looks great, please let me know in the comment section. So I think the conclusion for me is this. I don't think Salah is doing enough right now. If you're putting him in, you're basically doing it in the hope that he does eventually return. If he was 10 million, this is a different story. 14.5 is so expensive. So I would wildcard without him, personally. Bank the transfers over the next few weeks because realistically your wildcard team should look good enough in game weeks 9, 10 and 11. And then in game week 12, if you're in a position where Mo Salah has actually done really well against United, Brentford and Villa, we can bring him in game week 12 for the next 4 game weeks. And then when we get our 5 free transfers for the Africa Cup of Nations, we then pivot the team away from Mo Salah. And worst case, you free hit him in 12 or 14 where the fixtures are quite standout. But for me, Mo Salah is an avoid on a wildcard. So whenever you're building a wildcard team, yes, it is really important to look at the underlying numbers, the players that are essential, but I think it is even more important to look at the fixtures ahead because even though 7 game weeks worth of information is great and certain players may seem essential right now, if all of a sudden we're coming into a terrible run of fixtures, then maybe this is your opportunity to be a bit different and go away from those players that are popular on a game week 6 wildcard because the fixtures now are obviously much better for certain teams. So we're focusing on game weeks 8 to 15. As we said, African Cup of Nations transfers come in game week 16. So I don't think we need to look beyond this point. And of course, this is based on the difficulty for this period. There's going to be times where between game weeks 10 and 13, a team is going to stand out. And that comes down to your own anticipation of those fixtures in the foreseeable future. We'll talk about those in a minute of the ones that we could target. So firstly, what this doesn't show you is going to be European football. I think this is massive over this period. We know the Christmas period is crazy as it is, and squads that are a little bit thin because sometimes struggle over that Christmas time where they got midweek, weekend, midweek, weekend. We also have to chuck into the equation here European football. So between game weeks 8 and 9, we have got all European teams, and that's going to include, looking at this list, Arsenal, Liverpool, Crystal Palace, Chelsea, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, Man City, and of course Spurs. And when I read out some of those teams, I think there's some squads there that are really going to possibly struggle with all of this football. Crystal Palace, just to name one, a really popular team that a lot of us are targeting, but do they have the squad depth to get through European fixtures between game weeks 8 and 9, 10 and 11, and game weeks 12 and 13? So I think squads are really going to get stretched over this period. Even ones like Spurs, for example, who don't have huge strength and depth, particularly in certain midfield areas and centre defensive positions. So European football has to be considered. What we can see here, though, is clear. Arsenal long-term are just great. Now, there is a problem here because I think this is the best Arsenal squad that we have seen for a long time. So when I sit here and say to you, Timber's going to be great, Gabriel's going to be great, Saliba, in seasons gone by, Arteta had to roll these players out each and every week. I don't think he has to do that this season. Calaflori is the guaranteed left back, Timber's the guaranteed right back of the 7 game weeks that we've seen. But could we see a situation where Ben White picks up some minutes? Maybe Lewis Skelly gets some minutes? 100% that could happen. So I think we need to understand, we know the information that we have right now. I think we have to work off that, but don't be surprised over this crazy period where rotation might actually be a bit more common than what we first thought in the opening 7 game weeks. Now, for me right now, I think buying Liverpool and Man City from game week 12 onwards needs to be a priority. So if you're wildcarding right now, you don't have to have Liverpool, but you need to have a plan in place from game week 12 onwards. The thought of that, probably by game week 12, we know who the good Liverpool players are. I would like to think Slot has finally figured out his team by then. Forest, West Ham, Sunderland, Leeds, great fixtures. So really, what I'm trying to say is, get yourself in a position where you build your wildcard, roll your transfers for game weeks 9 to 11, and then have flexibility in game week 12 to target those Liverpool and City options that are really good. I think there are potential differentials. Brighton being top of this list, Wolves being up there, even West Ham in the middling of the pack with Nuno in charge. I think a Paqueta, I think a Bowen are all going to emerge as good options. And maybe at Brighton, like a Minter with no European football, could be a really differential pick. And finally, we spoke about this briefly. Game weeks 11 and 12 are the opportunity for captaincy. So you've got to make sure you have someone in your wildcard team that actually can be a captaincy pick. You can go for Haaland every week, 100%. But when I look at it, game week 11, great time to go for someone like a Saka away against Sunderland. I know Sunderland are good, but I think Arsenal are much better. And then in game week 12, maybe if we are pivoting towards Mo Salah, Salah at home against Forest while Man City go away against Newcastle, what a great opportunity if we are seeing glimpses of Mo Salah. So obviously take that into account. Let's take a look at this game week 8 wildcard team. So take a look at this game week 8 wildcard team, kicking things off with the goalkeeper and defence. And I think it's a really interesting part of the wildcard right now, because a lot of game week 6 wildcarders would have gone for the combination of Raya and Dubravka. And it's worth noting, I still think Dubravka is a standout pick. Playing every week for Burnley, 4 million. And if you do still have your bench boost available and you need to use it, what a great goalkeeper to enable that kind of strategy. But right now for the goalkeeper, I'm going to go for Nick Pope. So in terms of Nick Pope right now, Newcastle has shown that they are kind of happy just to stink up games at times. Maybe things will change when obviously Vissa comes back and they get a bit more free-flowing football. But it looked like Eddie Howe was just happy to just get some results in the early doors. And whenever those games were being quite turgid, Nick Pope was great for bonus points when you do actually monitor the bonus points scoring. So he actually, I think, could outscore Raya just based on bonus points alone and the way that Newcastle might approach games. And also, he's a little bit cheaper than David Raya. Now, of course, it's not like I'm going without Arsenal. The reason why I'm avoiding David Raya is to get myself what I think is actually just better value picks in the defence. So that's why we're going for the combination of Gabriel and Timber. Now, I think Gabriel is just the ultimate pick right now. He's shown that he can pick up defensive contributions. He's shown that he can still score goals, and he's part of the best defence in the league. Yes, they do have Mosquera, and I do think there will be at times where Saliba and Gabriel, may the easier fixtures, actually get a rest, especially in anticipation for big Champions League games. But I personally think Gabriel is still going to play 9 times out of 10. It's not enough of a reason not to own him. So I think Gabriel is still a lock in these teams, but I get it. If you haven't owned him from day one, the price at 6.3 million is starting to creep up. I think Timber is the real one here. I get it. Ben White is a good player. I think he's better than probably what we're giving him credit for. But Timber is just on another level right now. And at 5.9 million, while he doesn't get necessarily all of the defensive contributions, what we are seeing is an attacking fullback in this Arsenal team that also is great for bonus points. And I think it's a great opportunity to be a bit different from those that have already wildcarded in the previous weeks. I think others are trying to scramble to get to Timber. If you wildcard right now, what a great opportunity to include him in this team. Now, the rest of the defenders is really up for grabs. I think there is a really nice pool of players that you could go for. For example, we could go for Munoz in this team and take some prices out of the midfield. But I'm going to go for Richards right now. When I looked at the Crystal Palace numbers, there isn't loads between them for defensive contributions. I don't think Richards is going to be the highest scoring player, but when we look at this defence, Gabriel and Timber are playing every single game week regardless. So really, with the team that you'll see I've got, you're probably playing 3 defenders, 4 at times. So you don't be wanting to have a Palace player like Munoz, because then you are locked in on 2 Arsenal and Munoz every single week because of the way that Munoz scores his points. You kind of can't predict them, so you just got to play it in every single fixture. So if you own Senesi already, Senesi's in, hence why he's in the wildcard. And then you go for Richards, for me, is a much easier player to bench whenever you need to. You can roll them out in the particular game weeks that are required. So that's why Richards is in, for the saving and the fact you can bench him and kind of sleep easy at night knowing that. Senesi we touched on. If you own him already, you just keep him in your team. But it's worth noting, Bournemouth fixtures are getting a bit more difficult longer term. But we know European football, I think that kind of balances it out. And then we go for Rodon. I get it. Some people are going for a 5th defender, and I actually can get behind that. We could, with the money available, upgrade this to Anderson of Fulham. I don't hate that. But I'm just trying to show you what you could do with your money, and that's why Rodon is in the team right now, to just give us a bit more flexibility in the rest of the squad. But I will say this, you can upgrade into Anderson, and that is perfectly fine. Moving into the midfielders, and firstly, we're just going to talk about Semenyo very, very quickly, because if you own him already, if you're one of the 70% odd managers that own Semenyo, of course you are keeping him in your team. And I really do think it's 7.9 million. It's a lot of money for Semenyo, but if you've been paying 9 million for Bruno Fernandes and things like this, I think Semenyo is just ridiculous value. As we said, I think there are going to be tricky fixtures for Bournemouth coming up, but I think he's one of those players that actually suits both types of games. We've seen him against low block teams, for example, where he got his brace, but also we know that he is a transition threat in any game up against the likes of Man City or Arsenal. So I do think that he can perform in any fixture that we do give him. So Semenyo for me is just in this wildcard team. I think it takes a very brave manager to go against him. The only reason you go against him is maybe the thought of Bournemouth struggling in their upcoming fixtures, but I just don't think Semenyo is worth taking on right now. So he is in this team, and also so too Bukayo Saka. Now, again, game week 6 wildcarders, a lot of them went for the Gyökeres pick because we thought he was the penalty taker. Now, don't fall into the same trap of wildcarding in game week 8 thinking that Saka is guaranteed to be the penalty taker, because I don't think that is the case. What we're reading right now, there isn't actually any guaranteed clarity on who the penalty taker is. Maybe a couple more game weeks will give us that clarity, but I think in general, Saka is the better choice. Midfielder, extra point for a goal, guaranteed minutes, on set pieces. I think he is just the ultimate Arsenal pick in this team that you can hold long term. So he, for me, is the one to go to on a game week 8 wildcard. Now we're going for 3, what I would call middle-priced midfielders, but I think these offer great value. First up, Enzo, the one that everyone's talking about right now. If you are in a position where you're not wildcarding transfers, I would wait on Enzo just to see if it isn't an international break injury and maybe he is actually okay. They are the lunchtime kickoff. We should get some early team news. If you're wildcarding, you can make a late change if he isn't in the squad. But I think Enzo's great. On penalties, we think great fixtures, playing that number 10 role at times or an advanced 8, especially while Cole Palmer is out. However, I do just want to state, I think once Palmer is back, Enzo will diminish as a pick, but it doesn't look like that's happening anytime soon. Then we've gone for Paqueta. This is one of those picks that you are doing based on intuition and just basically a bit of hope. My thought process is that Nuno is going to get the best of West Ham more than that of Graham Potter. And the fixtures coming up are such an integral time for him. And in the 2 games that Nuno's been in charge, Paqueta has picked up some really interesting positions as an advanced 10. I think Paqueta is a great pick. Yes, at 5.9 million you are rolling the dice, but I think it is a good enough price point to take that punt with the fixtures coming up. And also he's shown that he can get defensive contributions, which is a really nice added touch to his overall way of scoring points. Finally, we have Reinders. Now, splitting the community a little bit because he isn't delivering, but on an eye test and an underlying perspective, he's doing the business. My concern is that players returning, Cherky for example, could we see Reinders actually have some minutes taken away because he's been such an ever-present in that Man City team? Until I actually see it, I think we just keep him in the teams right now. The fixtures coming up for Man City are okay, and then we know that we can move Reinders out later down the line if he isn't actually getting the output that we first thought he would. So there's other good midfielders that have been missed out, but I think this 5 are quite well balanced. So finally, taking a look at the forwards. Now, I hope you guys don't mind. I'm just not really going to talk about Erling Haaland. He just has to be in a wildcard team, unless you're in a position where you are just, purposely not owning Erling Haaland just to make the game a bit more interesting. Otherwise, there's just no point me sitting here talking about Erling Haaland. So Haaland is in your wildcard team. Next up, we're on for João Pedro. Now, I've spoken about this for months now. I don't love João Pedro as a pick as much as other content creators out there. However, Delap's still injured, Palmer's still injured. João Pedro as a number 9 diminishes him as a pick. Him as a number 10 elevates him. But while we have the injuries, João Pedro is going to continue as the number 9. Maybe Mark Gui will get some minutes, but I do still think that João Pedro will be the number 9. However, didn't go away with Brazil, so we know he's going to play 90 minutes against Nottingham Forest. And he is suspended for Chelsea's Champions League game, so he will play 90 minutes against Sunderland at home. It's just too good of an opportunity to keep him. His ownership is still big, even though he's being sold by lots and lots of FPL managers. For me, I just think you keep João Pedro for now, and then you know that you can use him as a cash cow to get rid of and downgrade to the other cheaper forwards that we have in the game. Now, the third forward is one that has probably been the hardest right now because I've spent 7.5 million on Mateta. However, this could easily be Jarrod Bowen if you think that Nuno is going to get the best out of him straight away. This could be Newcastle's Voldemada at a cheaper price. I do not mind that at all. I feel like of all the players that I've selected here, the third forward spot, the one that I went for Mateta, is the one that honestly, I don't mind whatever direction people go in. I've gone for Mateta just because the underlying numbers are still fantastic. I still really support him as a forward. I still think he is class, and I do think he will deliver over the fixtures that Palace do have. My hesitation is that thin squad for Palace, and I do think they could struggle of all the teams over the next 5 game weeks, balancing both Premier League football and European football. But Do I still think he's the big dog in that team? 100%. And we can make the same argument for Voldemada with Newcastle and Champions League football coming up. So I think Mateta is the best of both worlds in this side, but I do not hate taking a punt on Bowen, going down to Voldemada, Calvert-Lewin if you really want him and free up the funds elsewhere. But I think all round, this wildcard team is well balanced, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Yes, guys, okay, that's going to wrap up today's video looking at the best Game Week 8 wildcard team. As you can see, I think there are some players that are just absolutely essential, but there is opportunity to be a bit different in whatever position you would like to do so. So let me know in the comment section if you've activated your wildcard. Have you used it already? Are you using other chips in this game week? And if you have any general questions, please do let me know in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers.